Okay, we're ready now.
I was in New York City when Ellis Island opened up as a tourist attraction. My cousin and I went there, and we were trying to find any information we could about our grandparents as immigrants coming into the United States. And we couldn't find anything. We looked, and we tried different names and years, and we played with it quite a bit. And, of course, computers weren't then what they are now.
Right.
We couldn't find a thing. So we came home, and one day we were all sitting around talking about it. And we mentioned to other members of our family that we couldn't find a thing. And somebody piped up and said, well, they didn't come in through Ellis Island. They came in through Norfolk, Virginia.
Oh.
Which I never knew was an entry point. So
yeah.
That was. So we never did find anything out of
it.
Other things that had to do with racial things in the...
Yeah, what was... well, why did you come to California from New York?
Yes, I did. My aunt and my uncle moved to California. And at the time, I was in college in New York City. And I met some Chinese people in my field, and I met a friend of a friend, and we started dating, and he was a full Chinese guy, and I was not.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
I don't know, we really hit it off. We dated for quite a while, but it was really a problem because my parents were so upset about the racial issue. And we were going, nothing, I was young, you know. And his parents didn't like it any better. So we couldn't do anything family-wise or introduce each to families. So then with school break, and my uncle and aunt lived in California, so my family decided that really I should take a break, which probably was the right thing to do. I came out to California to go to school. And, you know, absence did not make the heart grow fonder.
Right.
We both realized, or I did anyway, and we did break up. And that really, I don't know what would have happened had we stayed there. It was a difficult situation in 1959, 1960. It just wasn't being done. But looking back on it now, it wasn't the worst racial mix. There's a lot of more problems in other races.
Right.
But Hawaii is a good place to live. We were talking about that, if there was any problem, but...
Oh, because they're more accepting over there?
Yes.
They were. Interesting.
There's a lot of intermixed
couples interracial.
And actually, I realized when I came to California, it was more acceptable here too. But hardcore Brooklyn and hardcore Chinese New York was not the place to be.
Right.
So.
What was the, so there was a big racial difference in terms of tension in California versus New York?
Yes. Oh, no, yeah, California, New York being more strict.
Right.
California's more liberal.
Right.
So if we met in California, it might have been a lot
different.
Easier.
Right. So that was, you said that was like your first time really experienced, like seeing racism against any Asian people, right? With
Asians, yeah, I think it was, right.
And then...
because where I lived, remember being an only Catholic in the whole Jewish area,
right.
I felt racial tension sometimes. Not racial, but ethnic tension.
Right.
Religious tension.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were pretty clannish.
Right.
And I didn't date any Jewish boys, and it wasn't an open at all at that point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What was the difference between the way that you, was there any difference in the way that you interacted with black people in New York versus California?
Didn't really have any relations with black people. I felt we were raised to be very...
Separate?
No, we were just raised to be very tolerant and all is well. Everything's good. We're up in the north, and at that time, people were called colored. And I really didn't have any experience until I went into college. And then I had some friends in my units, but we never really became close friends, like home visits and all. And not because of the ethnic part. It just, we didn't click.
Right.
So I really didn't, and then I left.
Right.
So
come to California.
Before I got, anyway.
Right.
But
so...
Your family history, so
my
husband, your grandfather, is of interest.
Yes.
Okay. So how we met, I was out here because of having been sent out to my aunt, and I was liking it. I had a job. I got a job in a bank.
Mm-hmm.
And met this banker, Taylor, and we hit it off. But he was my boss. So even though we hit it off, we was sneaking around. I had to tell my grandchildren we were sneaking around dating, and then we eloped, and then we let everybody know that afterwards.
Were your parents mad?
My parents were upset because already they sent me away from one relationship, and here I turned up in another. The reason we had eloped, though, he was concerned, this is really personal, but that because I was stopped from my first, he was worried that this wasn't going to work. So he said, okay, we'll get married, and then we'll tell him, but we won't mention that we're already married. And that gave him, like, security. I don't know where I was. I was 19, and it was romantic. So we got married. And we weren't going to tell anybody. So now we have a church wedding. Unfortunately, I turned up, I was pregnant. So we decided that, should we tell them I was 3 months pregnant when I got married? Or should we tell them
about you getting married before you got pregnant?
So I mailed wedding certificates all over the country.
To prove that you guys were married?
Yes. And the child that I was carrying turned out to be your father.
Right.
Okay. And then I had 2 more after that. I had a girl a year later and another daughter 10 years later.
Right.
So now that's where the history of your father, Jeffrey.
Yeah, all about that.
Yeah, he was my son Jeffrey, and we're still close with our grandchildren. Always been. Our family history is togetherness, I guess.
Yeah. There's a lot of closeness. Where's Grandpa Clarence? He was born in Rome, New York.
Born in upstate New York. And his parents owned a small corner grocery. He was one of 10 children. He was the 4th of 10. And children all worked in the store. And being one of the older ones, it was his responsibility to do a lot of deliveries. That was a big deal back then. And he was out on his bike all the time, and it's really inclement weather in the winter. Upstate New York gets a lot of snow, and he was, according to him, he was the only one that delivered, but I have a feeling that his brothers did some of it. And he hated the winter so much. To the day he died, I'd say, isn't that a pretty snow picture? And he'd say, no. So there.
Right.
So he went into the service. I don't think he was drafted. I think he went in on his own to get away from the cold, I think, in New York during the Korean conflict. So he went to the service, and he was on his way to Korea when he got pulled off. He was in Turkey, and one morning at their morning gathering, which has an army name, I'm sure, they said, anybody know how to type? And he said, yes, I do. And he looked around. He was practically the only one. So they interviewed him, and for the next 2 years, he lived in Turkey as a typist, a clerk of the courts for court marshals, which was quite interesting to him, and he liked that. And he made a good friend, Mike. He lived off base, in an apartment, he and Mike. And they decided that Southern California was the closest weather to Turkey. So they both came out to Southern California. Mike went on to UCLA, and my husband Clarence got a job in the bank. And after he was there a few years and moved up a few spots, I showed up. And then we met and got married. And here we are. Here I am with you.
Here we are. It's funny that you're both from New York, but you met in California.
Exactly. It's kind of strange.
Yeah.
But pretty far apart in New York, really. If you look at a map.
Right. How different was California in the 60s compared to today? When you first moved here? Was it very different?
Well, I'll tell you, it was flat. I forgot about that part. Coming from New York City, which was always tall buildings, we were in Santa Monica in the Pacific Palisades. There wasn't a building over like 5 or 6 stories high. And now I look out and it's downtown LA and the earthquake business.
Yeah.
I was subjected to a couple of tremors. That was exciting.
Because your first time with earthquakes was here.
Change.
Right, instead of hurricanes, right?
I really can't say, and of course we're so crowded now.
Yeah.
But we married, I had children, I was really involved raising kids, and I didn't get too much involved in politics and stuff like that.
Right, because there was a lot going on in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Was the...
and I was oblivious to a lot of it, or purposely not wanting to be involved.
Right.
Then we got into hippie things, and they got into Vietnam protesting, and I just stayed away from all that.
Right.
Really.
Right. So, everyone was from New York originally. How come everyone kind of started heading out west?
Yeah. My uncle, that was an interesting history too. He was British. He worked for Church's English Shoes in London, and he was a manager. And then Rodeo Drive was starting to get popular or be built, and they were putting stores in there. And they asked him to come over to the United States to develop that store. And I think he stopped in New York for a couple of years to develop the store in New York, and then they sent him out here for the store on Rodeo Drive. And while he was in the New York store developing that, he met my aunt. So they came out, and then I came out to that. Then my parents were not in good health after that. My father had a heart condition. It was still, New York and Brooklyn is still bad weather. So they followed me out, and then my mother's sister came out, and the next thing you know, we were all here except one brother and his family. They did stay in New York. So they're our New York connection. We see them every now and then. We meet. And so the rest of us stayed here. So I started raising my family. Now, my husband's family all just stayed in upstate New York.
Okay.
I don't know of any of them leaving that area. They're all still there. We've gone back once or twice. Then I had my children. I had your father first, and then I have a daughter, Laura, who has her husband works in the movie studios. Now, that would be a very California thing.
That is very California. Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't have done that in New York. She wouldn't have had that career.
Right.
She has 4 children, and 2 of them are involved in the theater. I have a younger daughter that's home with me. We work together in an organization, a company. We're bookkeepers together. Let's see, my brother got married. Now, he moved to Texas, and then he moved to Arizona, where he is now. And he had 1 child, and then, so you have that 1 cousin.
Right.
You have a dozen or more cousins that you really, it's just too bad. We should do something about that maybe one day.
Get together.
Go back there and say, hello, here we are. Because we've kind of lost touch with them since your grandfather's been gone for 12 years.
Right.
So most of his siblings have passed on. So the next generation, we just didn't keep in touch.
Right.
Mostly location. And I think because our family, we connected so much in our own, they did the same thing. So you have enough family without reaching out.
Right.
You know. And,
How come you moved out of LA? Because you don't live in LA anymore.
that was a good story. I was living in Culver City and I liked it. I said, I'm going to stay here forever. So my son-in-law, one day, he went to the track. He wasn't working. He went to the track and he happened to win an exacta at Santa Anita. $18,000. And now, exactas are not that hard to do. You have to win 8 races in a row. And it just so happens it's a pool. Only 5 people hit that pool that day. So people have hit it. You get $50 or $100, depending on how, $18,000. Well, my daughter and her husband were living above his father's garage. So they said, oh, good, we'll buy a house. They couldn't buy a house in Culver City by then for $18,000 down.
Right.
So they started looking, then they wanted to come out to the Antelope Valley. Everybody wanted to come except me. I went, I'm settled here. So they said, you're coming with us? And I said, oh, okay. So we sold our house in Culver City and we moved up here. We've been here 30 years and it was a wonderful thing for us. It was really a good experience. So when people ask me, how come I'm here? I say, because my son-in-law went to the track instead of the Dodger game, which he told his wife he was going to do.
Oh, he was supposed to go to the Dodger
I
game?
know, she called me and she goes, my marriage is over. They were married like 3 months. He lied to me. Turns out he didn't exactly lie. They went to the Dodger game and they were bored. So then they went over to Santa Anita.
That's really funny. I didn't know that.
That's funny. Yeah.
Scandalous.
Listen, if you I learned that in my 76. You make a left turn, a right turn, and your whole life changes. You don't know. You pick a certain school, you pick a certain church, an activity, and it could or it doesn't have to change everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The smallest thing is life life-changing event that you would never dream.
Yeah.
You've had that yourself, right? Think about. I'm gonna run it back to you now.
Yeah, I definitely have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so many different options in life.
You had options to go here or to go there to school. You picked Fullerton, and it's working for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
It's good. I think we have enough. I think we have, like,